The Chinese delegation wishes to take this opportunity to make the following points. First, it is necessary to continue to assess the regular budget in accordance with the principle of capacity to pay. The normal function of the United Nations relies on an adequate regular budget and a stable financial situation. Therefore, countries should be assessed a portion of the budget on the basis of the principle to pay and pay their dues timely, in full and without conditions. When determining the capacity to pay, it is necessary to take into full consideration different levels of economic development among countries. One must not exaggerate the capacity to pay of some developing countries purely on account of their economic momentum, while ignoring the huge gap that exists between the per capita level of these countries and the developed countries. Therefore, it is necessary when actually practicing the principle of capacity to pay, it is necessary to adhere to LPCIA and the debt burden adjustments. And for countries that are in a special situation due to conditions beyond their control, accommodation should be made in terms of assessed contributions. Second, it is necessary to establish a just and equitable scale of assessment for the apportionment expenses of the peacekeeping operation. Peacekeeping operations are an important means for the United Nations in maintaining international peace and security. Effective peacekeeping operations require adequate financial support from member states. Countries should, in accordance with G resolution, show a collective responsibility in the apportionment of the peacekeeping expenses. Such a collective responsibility is one that is common but different. What it actually means is that permanent members of the Security Council bear a special responsibility that exceeds their scale of assessment of the regular budget. Economically developed countries bear a bigger portion, while economically less developed countries bear a smaller portion. We support that developing countries should continue to enjoy necessary relief and support the position of the Group of 77, which welcomes practice where developed countries showed a bigger portion on a voluntary basis. Third, it is necessary to adopt a relatively stable methodology for calculating scale of assessment. First, the scale cycle should be stable, i.e., it is necessary to continue to follow the provisions of the General Assembly, which require that once a scale is established, it should remain valid for 3 years. Second is the stability of the formula of the calculation. Although the current formula for calculating the scale of the assessment is not perfect, however, it has taken into account the concerns of all the parties concerned in a balanced manner and is a consensus forged by member states after long and hard negotiations. Practice over more than a decade has proven its usefulness and effectiveness. Continuation of this formula is helpful for member states to pay their assessed contribution and is conducive to the financial stability of the United Nations. Fourth, it is necessary to strengthen the United Nations budget management. In recent years, the volume of the UN budget has continued to grow and many new records have been set. China has no difficulty when it comes to resources that have to be increased and payments that have to be made. However, at the same time, it should be pointed out the resources of the United Nations come from the taxpayers of every member state, and every penny should count. We hope that the Secretariat will prepare the budget on the basis of the facts and enhance supervision and accountability in the execution of the budget so as to avoid waste. Any waste, cherish and use wisely every penny from the member states. Fifth, it is necessary to adopt a partnership spirit of mutual consideration and accommodation and consensus building on the question of budget. The deliberation process should be open, inclusive, democratic, transparent, and the concerns of different parties should be accommodated. Efforts must be made to avoid politicizing the budget question and avoid any discriminatory practice against any party. Member states should show mutual respect, engage in patient consultation, and accommodate each other in a joint effort to find a solution that is acceptable to all. Mr. Chairman, according to the current methodology that is established on the basis of the principle of capacity to pay, China will see a significant increase in terms of its scale of assessment of regular budget and the peacekeeping budget for 2016 and to 2019. Although the total volume of China's economy is big, the picture is quite different when considering the per capita level, and China remains a developing country without any doubt. This is China's reality, which should be an important basis for determining China's capacity to pay. We oppose any practice that treats China differently from other developing countries when establishing the scale of assessment of the regular budget, and will not accept a methodology that exceeds China's capacity to pay. So long as the methodology is fair, equitable, and reasonable, as a responsible, big developing country, China is willing to shoulder its due financial responsibility and will continue to shoulder its special responsibility as a permanent member of the Security Council with regard to the peacekeeping apportionment of expenses. China will pay timely and in full its due assessed contribution without 1 penny less.